Good afternoon. So I'm going to talk about germ theory and terrain theory, or my understanding of those two. Do a summary as brief and as best I can, and then go into which one makes sense to me. So germ theory or contagion theory is essentially there are germs, viruses, foreign, outside, hostile, invaders, deadly pathogens, words like this, that they come from outside, they strike in seemingly unknown and sneaky ways that just, like out of the blue, like the fear of a diagnosis, that kind of thing. And then they come in and they wreak havoc, and the outcome is unknown. Often getting a diagnosis of having a certain bug or virus or whatever, test positive, that kind of thing, means a death sentence or a very long recovery or hard ordeal, and it's all about fighting and trying to get these foreign invaders out. Or there's the only known maybe preventative measure, or maybe technically it might be more of like a first strike, is the vaccine, where like make ourselves sick in a small bit first in an effort to try to build up immunity and ward off the much bigger threat of a full-blown attack from the full force, the real threat. And it involves, like from an energetic or just way of living, it's fear of others, fear of outsiders, trying to distance, basically all of the last couple of years, masks, social distancing, lockdowns, pods, only associate with known people of certain types, asking people, are you vaccinated or not, or what's your history, who have you been around, that kind, so it's that kind of thinking and being in the world, where essentially the world is a dangerous and an even scary place, and we have to be on guard and vigilant for, these threats. And with germ theory, it becomes a warfare mentality, and kill the germs, antibacterial soaps, disinfectant, wiping down every surface, trying to sterilize, the idea of like a laboratory, the dead, everything's dead, vacuumless, airless, there's an airlock, everything's sprayed down, sanitized, completely white room, this kind of thing. The idea that the outside is anything alive has the potential to be a threat, so kill it. Pasteurize cheeses, milks, this kind of thing. Can't anything raw, alive has the idea of pathogens, and that's where so just kill it. If it's dead, it can't harm us. This kind of thing, and no idea or belief in an intertwining of bacteria, both good and bad, and the idea that our gut's alive and we have a microbiome on our skin and in our gut. And so like the idea of antibacterial in our skin and antibiotics in our body and our gut and everything doesn't even register. It's seen as better to be dead and sterile than to have living stuff in there. That's my understanding of germ theory. And terrain theory, I'd only heard the term recently. I thought of it, the basic principles in another way. So essentially, terrain theory is saying that the world is a friendly place. The human body's natural state is health. That as long as we live in accordance with nature, or with how human beings lived historically, from like hunter-gatherer, that kind of thing, that we'll be healthy. That health, long life, thriving, vitality, these kind of things are our birthright, and there are only essentially 4 ways that we get sick. Poisoning, so like ingesting a poison, arsenic, cyanide, or environmental poisoning, like a bunch of pollution in the air, a bunch of swimming in a vat of toxic chemicals, living near a nuclear waste, Chernobyl, something like that. Those, that kind of poisoning, a nuclear bomb went off nearby and the radiation kills us, that kind of thing. Malnourishment, as in poor diet, not getting enough nutrients, eating, farmed meats and CAFO kind of grain-fed animals that are, held in horrible conditions and horrible health themselves, eating, GMO food sprayed with Monsanto, glyphosate, all kinds of gnarly chemicals and soil that has no nutrients. And so our body can't function right, and we're a host that's ripe to fall apart or be invaded by whatever it is, microbes or bacteria or whatever. We just decay because we're in such poor health. Lack of exercise, movement, sedentary, sitting on our butts all day at an office or on a couch potato, that kind of thing. And psychosomatic or mental, emotional, trauma, either physical, verbal, spiritual, stuffing feelings, and it bottling up, and it solidifies and turns into cancer or some other disease or pain, sciatica, neck pain, pain in the neck, pain in the back, that kind of thing, or pick your autoimmune disease. The body is so traumatized and in such a state of fight and flight and distress, and has to start shutting down or does all kinds of things to try to compensate and keep us from feeling those scary, super gnarly emotions that are terrifying and seem worse than death. So essentially, terrain, as long as the terrain, the body, the exterior terrain, the environment we live in, the foods we eat, the water we drink, that kind of thing is natural in the natural way, not dumped with chemicals, or we're not poisoning ourselves in some way, that kind of thing, they'll be healthy. And that, if someone is not in good health, then we start looking to the environment. Okay, what's your emotional state? What is your diet? What kind of toxins might you be exposed to? And looking at the human body as a holistic thing in that way, that's how the cure is found. And prevention is just eating right, exercising, movement, tribe, community, having good feelings, good relationships, and rest and that kind of thing. So for me personally, like anecdotally, I grew up having an experience where someone around me would get a cold, a flu, something like that. And then within days or a week or sooner, I would get a cold or a flu. And so I just assumed that, the germ theory I'd been told about, that's how I got it. It was passed around. They gave it to me. You son of a bee, like you shouldn't have given me that thing, or I shouldn't have been around that person, or I should have covered my face, or they should have, that kind of this fearful and blaming, and you did this to me. And when someone coughs or they do anything that they look sick, or they have a fever, runny nose, don't touch it, get away, tissues, so I grew up with a lot of that. And then as I got older and started learning another way, the indigenous way of reading nourishing traditions, being introduced to the ideas of hunter-gatherers, paleo, this kind of thing, and I started taking responsibility for my health. I started eating different, as close to wild as possible. I took on a spiritual practice as far as meditation, mindfulness, my thoughts, my emotions, nonviolent communication, inventory of feelings, not suppressing, emoting, journaling, all this stuff, breath work, active meditation, and not putting, toxins on my body, not putting toxic soaps with a bunch of chemicals and antiperspirant, deodorants, toothpaste with all kinds of garbage and other crap in it, and who knows what else, all the other stuff of thinking of my skin as being an alive, natural protection thing, and that if I put a bunch of harsh chemicals on there, I'm destroying my natural protection and creating this imbalance and things like that. Also being aware of my gut microbiome and the idea that there are all kinds of living stuff inside me, and if I nuke it with some antibiotics, that's going to be bad for me long term. Even if I'm I was in Morocco once and I got horrible diarrhea and stomach bug, and maybe it was a pathogen, maybe it was being homesick and the stress of being in a foreign country and who knows, but I took the antibiotics, and then so I'm like, okay, I know that knocked out all the good flora. So when I got home, I ate lots of yogurt, probiotics. I wanted to build back up whatever, do what I could to try to repair, the good bacteria that the antibiotics knocked out, and the idea of leaky gut syndrome and stuff like that, where, if we have a healthy inner then we'll be healthy in general. Like the gut is the real brain, and the things like this. So having taken all that on, I started to notice that when people around me had a cold or a flu, so-called cold season would come around, and everyone in the office would start to cough, and it seemed like it passed from person to person. It would pass me by. I didn't get it. Same in the household. Like some people would all of a sudden get sick, everyone else would get sick, and I wouldn't. We'd all go out to dinner, all eat the same thing. Everyone else got so-called food poisoning. I didn't get it. Was it just a fluke? Did I not eat the stuff? Or was it, because I was taking better care of myself? My terrain was in better health than theirs. I don't know, but like anecdotally, so I've had experience of both, and I'm more in line now with terrain theory. It makes more sense to me as far as how to be healthy, and what, and the idea of a hostile world doesn't resonate with me at all. I want, a friendly universe. The universe is friendly. The idea that I came here as the instrument, the flute, and the wind of life blows through me so that I can express myself, don't die with my music still inside me, give my gift, be, a beneficial force, this kind of thing, a very friendly, seeing the world as a place to be in harmony with, and not as a hostile place that I have to kill or be killed, and I'm under constant danger, this kind of thing. And then with the past couple of years, like the official narrative around, this like super deadly virus that's contagious and going to kill, and all the estimates about death, and all the stories about, going to the hospital and how dangerous and deadly, and pain and suffering. And like, for me, none of those came true. It didn't check out. My own personal experience, both with my own body and the people around me and people I saw out on the street, I didn't see any of that. So like anecdotally, germ theory hasn't checked out. It hasn't manifested. I haven't witnessed it. Whereas terrain theory, I'm out there just living normal life, and there's no problem. I'm doing my best to be in harmony with the earth, with nature, and I'm fine. I feel good. And also, like narrative-wise, historically, I'm 49, and I've lived through several, the War on Terror, the end of the Cold War, and communism, and the drug war, and things like this. And the narratives of those wars seem very similar to me to the virus narrative around, the idea of hostile invaders, like the whole War on Terror. They hate us because we're free, and these people are, they're religious fanatics, and they'll stop at nothing to kill us, and they're, we never know when they're going to strike. This, very similar to the COVID narrative of this like mysterious, super dangerous, constantly changing and mutating, can pop out of nowhere, and nobody knows how bad it is or who's going to die, and have to be in constant fear and vigilance. And like same with the drug war. Drug dealers, they're shady, they're everywhere. They're going to find ways to get their drugs in. The communists, they're everywhere. Whoever the foreign invaders are, nuke their ass and take their gas. The whole, this kind of, seeing the other as othering everyone in general, and seeing everyone is a threat, and we have to fight, constant fight, endless war, as the t-shirt says. That like, at this point in my life, that doesn't make any sense. It seems totally 180 degrees from terrain theory, which for me is, it's hunter-gatherer, it's indigenous. It's looking back at how we evolved, how we lived for hundreds of thousands of years. And the closer we are to nature, health becomes our birthright. We're no different than the dolphins, the deer, the lions, the tigers, the bears, all, the fishes. We have a certain life cycle. We have a certain way of living on this planet. And if we stay in line with that, we thrive. If we get off track, if we're a fish trying to live out of water, or we're a deer trying to eat the lion, and this kind of thing, it's going to not work out for us. If we stay in line with how we're designed, how we thrived for hundreds of thousands of years, our terrain will be healthy. We'll be healthy. So that's what makes sense for me, and that's where I'm at. So hope this helps. Any comments or anything you want to add, about terrain or germ or something I don't know or missed, please let us know. Share it, this video, if you like it, hit thumbs up, go to my website, check that out, subscribe, and thanks again.